All right, hey guys, welcome back, and we are here for part two of my breakdown of Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I absolutely enjoyed watching a lot of other YouTubers get out their videos over the past few days. And if you do see some similarities, it's probably because I'm adjusting to their comments as well. And some I found really exciting. So yeah, I may be throwing out certain things that they pointed out as well, just because of how much I realized that there's so many other things that I may have missed out because I've watched this film like I think almost three times. I'm waiting to finish it for the third time with my wife, but I've watched it almost three times, and I realized that there are some of them who have already watched it multiple times. I'm not sure how they pull that off. I'm not sure if they sped it up, skipped through, or just to get their content up, they watched a specific part several times. But there's so many other Easter eggs apparently that are there, and even in part one, which I put out, there's apparently a lot of writings and inscriptions of comic book references. What do you call this, character references of other comic characters, as well as characters in the film that have yet to show themselves. So if you guys want to look out for Easter eggs, I think you can probably take your time, slow down the speed of the film if you can, and then try to like pick out things. Or if your TV or your computer doesn't allow you to slow it, maybe you can like quick pause and play until you get the right scene. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it, but if you get the right screenshot at the right time, you'll probably be able to see those Easter eggs. Uh, well, regardless, I am about to begin my breakdown of part two. So, part two is called The Age of Heroes, and what I really like about this one is how it quickly transitions from showing the villain being absolutely menacing in the first part to the villain actually being in a rather emotional and pitiful state, and we quickly get a backstory of Steppenwolf, and it's so amazing because we only saw him, like show up and he's so menacing, he does all these terrible things. But now you get to see that he's just seeking redemption. And he calls out to Desart, who's one of Darkseid's generals. And he needs Desart to kind of. What do you call this? Oh, wait, is it now or is it later? Let me just confirm that. Um, I believe later. Oh no, apologies. I think he only calls out to Dissart later, but instead what he does is he finds this kind of monolith-like structure inside a nuclear, what do you call that, reactor vent, which is what you see in nuclear power plants. There's like this huge vent to allow the core to kind of cool itself. So it's one of those giant cooling like vents, and in the center of the vent there's like a monolith, and Steppenwolf places the mother box into that monolith, the first one that he got from the Amazons. He places it there, and it kind of fuses into the monolith and allows him to harvest the nuclear energy of that area, because apparently it looks like one of those abandoned places. Maybe it's like Chernobyl or something near Russia. And it's Russia, right? Yeah, okay. And then he harvests the nuclear energy to try to create this sort of fortress, which he will later use as his base. But of course, the fortress has not achieved its full strength because it's just one mother box. But once he establishes that, he sends his parademons out to go and seek the other two mother boxes. After that, we get a scene of Batman just shaving himself clean and getting ready to continue his recruitment. He no longer needs his beard because he's done with the cold, icy place of Aquaman. And now he wants to go look for Barry Allen, who is the Flash. And in the meantime, we get this absolutely sassy Alfred, who's just talking to Batman about his recruitment ideas and whatever. And let me tell you, this Alfred is definitely Niles from The Nanny. He's a combination of Niles from The Nanny and probably like what kind of sidekick does Batman have that sits in a chair? I think it's just this really badass version of Alfred. Basically, he's like the guy in the chair's sidekick, who's just this absolutely brutal butler when it comes to making comments, like Niles. But he does his job perfectly. But yeah, he's pretty savage, that's for sure. And I really like this Alfred. I'm really starting to dig his version. It's absolutely amazing. You love every character in this film, and that's one of the things that I really appreciate is how every character is given so much weight that you don't feel any of them are just there because you want to just throw people into the scene. No, everyone is there for a purpose. They're serving a purpose, and they're likable. And even if someone is someone you hate them for the right reasons. You hate them because they're cruel or they're a villain, and that's what makes these characters so amazing. Then you get a shot of Silas Stone. Shortly after the Alfred scene, Silas Stone is working in Star Labs, which has been established around the Superman crash, the Superman ship that has crashed, and of course we don't see a lot of Whedon's cutting and editing here. Is just Zack Snyder's shots. The people of color that were cut out are now back in the scenes as well, which is really nice to see. I really don't understand why you would need to cut out people of color. I'm pretty sure a director who has attention to detail would just get someone else to replace the people in the background to look more or less the same, instead of just trying to get random actors to fill in and make it look like some sort of a weird controversy by removing people of color. Now, I mean, with all due respect, not that I'm defending Joss Whedon or anything in particular, but I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to just say that there is a possibility that Joss Whedon just sucks in his attention to detail, and that's the reason why the people of color were removed in the background. And that was what I initially wanted to put out. But at the same time, upon watching the rest of the film, realizing that cyborg scenes in particular were removed, and then Martian Manhunter also, who is also a person of color, of course. Warner Brothers didn't want to introduce the John Stewart Green Lantern. There's so many funny things going on in the background that I don't really want to make it a controversy because that's not what this video is about. But at the same time, I feel that there's no reason to ignore these people of color or to hide them away. I feel that having a sort of variety in your film, in terms of race, gender, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But just having people represented, I feel it just feels like you're a part of the world. And that's one thing I really did like about the Avengers films. The Avengers films did have a lot of mix and variety in terms of their wide range of characters, which I really respected and I appreciate that. So after Silas Stone kind of chit chats with this janitor, the janitor is going to go and check on this sound that he hears in Star Labs and realizes that a parademon has broken in, and the parademon starts kidnapping people in the lab because they want to they get a scent of the mother box on these scientists, and they use the scent to kind of trace these mother boxes. So they don't find the one that is supposed to be in Star Labs, but they get the scent. So they kidnap these scientists, but Silas Stone doesn't get kidnapped because he manages to get out of the place in time, and he doesn't know that these parademons have come. He manages to like leave his job. He's off, like he ends his work shift, and then this thing happens. Shortly after that, we get a shot of the Amazons who are preparing these arrows, and these are arrows of Artemis. There's a huge bow and this chest of like two arrows, and there's a third slot, which shows that one arrow had already been fired long ago. And as the Amazons say, men won't know what it means, and the fire hasn't burned in 5,000 years. These dialogues mean that 5,000 years ago, the first arrow was shot, and that's probably how the Amazons recruited, all the rest of the world of men to join them in their conquest. And this time, not really conquest but the defense, but still, this time they use the second arrow and they have one arrow left. And Queen Hippolyta is the one that fires the arrow of Artemis. She does so to hoping that Wonder Woman sees it, which she does. And shortly after Wonder Woman can address the arrow issue, we get to see a little bit more of Silas Stone and Victor, who kind of are interacting about just the father and son kind of struggle, and just it's just a short clip to show you that these things are happening more or less in parallel. I'm not sure. I mean, for me, I felt that it's not necessary to cut so quickly. They could have just done that scene, later on. Regardless, they just want to throw things in to show you all these things are happening in parallel and they're happening rather quickly. So they transition between these two scenes. So then we come back to Wonder Woman, where she's investigating Artemis Arrow. It's scorching hot because it has been burning all night, but she just grabs it with a bare hand and she's just like looking for what this arrow is trying to tell her. Then she finds out that somewhere around this area there's like this ancient tomb. And the only reason that no one has been able to access this tomb is because you require the arrow of Artemis to open the tomb, and that was so cool. So Diana opens the tomb, and she enters it, and she sees these ancient scriptures on the walls. And on these scriptures, the last menacing picture that she sees is this depiction of Uxas on the wall, and this is Uxas still. He's a young dark side, and the reason he's known as the young dark side is because he does not yet have the Omega symbol crest on his chest. And he also does not have the anti-life equation. And I am not entirely sure, but let me put it out there that I believe that they are two separate things in Zack Snyder's universe. And the reason I say that is because later on in the film, you will see Darkseid with the Omega symbol, but his eyes are not glowing with the anti-life equation. And then you see a nightmare sequence where his eyes are glowing with the anti-life equation, and he can use the Omega beams. And I believe, without the anti-life equation, it's possible that he can't use the Omega beams or chooses not to for some reason. Uh, but yeah, I believe the Omega symbol and the anti-life equation are two separate things. But anyway, that's just my theory. I could be wrong. So shortly after Diana discovers all that kind of photos and whatever, or rather scriptures on the wall, we cut to a scene of Aquaman saving a guy off a ship, and it's just a really cool shot for it's like kind of a Jason Momoa appreciation scene, which is followed by him going to Atlantis to kind of have a look at I believe it's King Atlan's statue or something, and I don't know why, because there's some sort of disconnection, I feel, between this lore and the lore we got in the Aquaman film. For multiple reasons. First of all, the Aquaman film was made to be much lighter, much more energetic, because they didn't want a very serious Aquaman in that film, and they did a lot of to try to make it Marvelize a bit, made it very comedy-ish, which is fine. James Wan did his own thing, and I love James Wan. He's a great director and all that, but it is not true to the character that was developed in this film, and we can see the differences in the lore as well. Vulko as well in this film is a little bit more, looks a little bit different. His hair is longer, and he, is kind of encouraging Arthur to take the mantle as the king, so on and so forth, saying that he's the rightful king. And I'm not sure why he is the rightful king. Unless the possibility is that Orm is a son of another king, and not Queen Atlan and the king, or maybe he's the son of another mother or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, because the lore here, I feel, has some gap between the lore this film and the Aquaman film. So I really want to read up a little bit more about it before I comment, just to make sure I don't get it wrong in any way. But him and Orm are definitely half brothers, and I do not think that what do you call this? It is only because of Aquaman's father being a surface dweller. I feel that Orm is also an illegitimate child in some way, because otherwise, what do you call this? Vulko would not say Aquaman, I mean, would not say that Arthur Curry should be the king. It doesn't make sense, right? Because the king is usually the son of the previous king. But in this case, he's the son of the queen, which means that Orm may not be the son of, the rightful person to the throne. So there's some sort of just disjointment. I hope you understood what I said. But anyway, after this discussion between Valko and Arthur Curry, we see a shot of Steppenwolf finally calling out to Desart. And Desart shows up, he looks amazing. He shows up in this holographic interface, which is the monolith, and it's sort of a communication device. It's kind of reminiscent of the Kryptonian technology that we saw in Man of Steel, but it's still its own thing. So I love this lore, this design of the way they communicate using these metal-like what do you call these structures, and it creates this sort of 3D hologram that is used to communicate, and it looks like molten lava, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. My god, the ideas in this film, I must say. Steppenwolf is trying to talk to Desart about negotiating the terms of his return from exile, which looks like what has happened to him, and he apparently owes 50,000 wolves or something like that to Darkseid, and that sounds like quite a big burden to carry. And you start to feel sorry for Steppenwolf because you realize it's just about a guy who wants to return home. And I mean, of course, he's brutal and all that. He's evil, yes, of course he's evil, but he's doing this because he just wants to go home. I mean, wouldn't you? If you're an almighty evil conqueror who's been banished, you would do anything to get home. And I think that is sort of relatable. He even has these very cute little looking face with kind eyes, and I feel that that really sets the tone. And I'm starting to really like Steppenwolf as a character. I mean, overall, not just as a villain, but also for the fact that he has such a sad and tragic backstory, which is kind of cute. And my wife thinks that he looks horrible, but I'm telling her, no, he looks cute. Then we see Diana, who is visiting Bruce Wayne after destroying, millions of dollars worth of security. We don't get to see the shot of her destroying everything, but Bruce Wayne says so, and she's come to tell him the story of the, what do you call this? The history lesson, which is what what us Snyder fans, I believe, call it. The history lesson, as Zack Snyder, is what Zack Snyder says. Actually, he calls it the history lesson. It's basically the flashback of all the three, like the planet uniting to fight against Uxas and his army when they initially come to try to conquer Earth 5,000 years ago. And I mean, there's nothing like it. This reminds me of 300, The Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. I mean, man, this is the ultimate thing you want to see in a Justice League film. This is like reading the comics of a history, a lesson or or a flashback, and you get to see Zeus with Artemis, with the Green Lantern, with Ares, and they're all fighting in this amazing battle together with the Amazons. Queen Hippolyta is there, and Uxas comes down crashing. And then there's a king. I'm not sure who the human king is. I don't think it is Arthur or something like that. I don't think so. But I mean, he could be a Pendragon or something like that. I'm not sure how the lore of the human king goes actually. Now that I think about it, I never read many of the human king stories in the comics. It's usually the Atlanteans, the Amazonians, the humans rarely, because you normally, it's normally about the League. So regardless, King Atlan is here during this battle, or rather, an Atlantean king. I'm not sure if this is King Arthur, because this is 5,000 years ago. So this could be like the earliest Atlantean king. But it's definitely Queen Hippolyta, because the Amazons, as we know, they are immortal beings created by Zeus for the purpose of defending Earth. So that's pretty cool. That's fine. And then Uxas brings his entire army, this armada, and he's trying to unite the mother boxes in the history lesson, and it's really cool. They're like Diana explains that they're these kinds of living machines, and they kind of work like these creatures that have been told to unite together by draining and linking with the energy of the planet. And once they have solved the energy resonance from the planet, they will link like a puzzle box and form this thing called the unity. And the concept is really cool. It's just it's just something for like sort of a challenge, and the battle starts, and we get to see everyone fight in the war. And the Green Lantern that gets shown here is an alien. I'm not entirely sure which lantern this is. I know that the others, like Kilowog and what's the guy with the yellow ring? Oh man, I have not seen the Green Lanterns in such a long time. I forgot his name. But anyway, I'll know if I hear his name. Regardless. Um, so this one here is a different alien. I'm pretty sure someone will be able to know who he is, or I have to look him up. Regardless, there's only one lantern here, which makes me believe that it's possible that this was early days when the Green Lantern Corps was formed, or this lantern, maybe just came to scout this sector of Earth and got caught up in the battle before he could call the rest of the lanterns. So the lanterns were not here in time, and for that reason, you also get to see him get absolutely knocked down by Uxas, his hand cut off. And as Uxas kills him, you get this shot of the Green Lantern's ring pausing, like it floats up and it stops in front of Uxas. And I believe the reason it does this is because it's waiting for Uxas to take the ring. Because the ring responds to the user with the strongest will in its near vicinity, and Uxas is clearly the person with the strongest willpower here. But before Uxas can reach the ring, he gets shot by an arrow of Artemis, and the moment that arrow hits Uxas, the ring flies off because Uxas no longer has the strongest will. So the ring is going to now seek the next person with the strongest will, and it just flies off into the distance, and we don't know who that person is. Artemis is just raining arrows into Uxas, and as she's doing that, King Atlan, hits like this wave of water, and Zeus, this guy who's acting as Zeus looks absolutely like a god. His body is just crazy. He's like the epitome of the 300 bodies combined into a god. That's what he looks like, and he's firing lightning as Uxas, and Ares comes in. Ares this time is working with Zeus because this is still way back in the past. He slashes through Ux's weapon and hits Uxus on the arm and slashes straight into his body. And I believe this is just a depiction of Ares' strength in the middle of war, because Ares is a god of war, and the more war there is, the stronger Ares gets. Which is why I think it makes sense that Ares was the one that was able to land the kind of near fatal blow into Uxus, because Ares is just getting stronger as the war keeps happening, and I love that concept of it. It is not something that is explained, but I mean, if you're a fan of Ares, you will know what I mean. Then you see, of course, Hippolyta and the rest of them, just absolutely dominating the battle, and yeah, the defenders of Earth, which is what they're called, manage to protect the planet, and then they decide to split three mother boxes and store them in their own ways. Now, the one thing I'm not quite sure, or rather don't understand, is why the gods didn't take one of the mother boxes. But it is possible that the gods are not supposed to intervene with what do you call this? The business of men. Like the gods only showed up to defend Earth as a planet because it means that their existence too would be doomed. Because the gods are kind of bound to Earth. However, I believe the reason they didn't take a mother box is because they didn't want to intervene with the laws, or rather the decisions of men, the Amazonians, and whatever. So this is what I think, but I'm not entirely sure. Because I mean, if I had a god and I had a storage box up in whatever Olympus, I would take one of the mother boxes there. That would be pretty cool. So shortly after that, Diana is done with the history lesson, and she and Bruce discuss about the fact that Steppenwolf is probably hiding somewhere, preparing, to get the other boxes and then eventually conquer Earth. She says the Age of Heroes. She never knew it would come again, and Bruce says it has to. And shortly after that, we end part two, and that's about it. Part three is about to begin. So for me, part two was absolutely brilliant, exciting from part one, and I love the way it's scaled. And one thing I must say is that the pacing of this film is absolutely beautiful. For those who are complaining that it's too long, it's 4 hours long. I mean, once again, I think that this is an absolutely stupid excuse, because you have no reason to watch it in one sitting because it's broken into parts. If you want to watch it in one sitting, sure, but if you decide to watch it in one sitting and you are complaining about it, there's something wrong with you, right? Because when I watched it, of course, I watched it 4 hours straight the first time, and the second time I took like a break in between to watch it. And the way I see it, I didn't really feel much of a difference. And when I watched it with my wife, we have broken it as well to three different seatings to watch it. The last seating is what I'm waiting for, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. But when we watched it in two different seatings, she was able to follow the story as well, and she was able to understand the flow of it, and we found it rather how do you call this, enticing. Even though we took a break, we were able to come back and continue and like kind of recharge. Like you're like you don't like how do you call this, the anticipation for the next part is there. You're thinking about the last part, and it really feels like if this was a series, we would have enjoyed it all the same. And I've said this before in my non-spoiler review as well. So, yep, that's about it from me for this kind of breakdown of part two, and kind of my walkthrough as well of the story. I absolutely love it. My favorite parts, of course, being um, the flashback, and I feel that the flashback was trimmed down. It was cut down a little bit, and I said this before. I think it's probably a reason because Zach wanted to keep it to 4 hours, and the reason because they initially planned to release it in the in four parts for HBO Max or whatever. But I mean, regardless, it's fine. It looks great, but I just wish it never ended. Honestly, that entire flashback sequence is probably what the final battle is going to look like if Justice League 2 and 3 eventually get made. And yeah, all right, let's keep going. I'll see you guys in the next ones pretty soon. Adios, guys.